Even a 5-year-old child can figure out what the text tool does, right? What does it do? It simply adds text. No matter what software you look at, no matter what visual creation application you look at, everywhere, whether it is the video editing application or on your phone or simply the GIF maker online where you create memes, everywhere you will find a tool with a T on it. If you click on it, it just simply adds text. Now the question is, how is the text tool different in Photoshop? Well, the distinction comes with customization, because if you look at it, it does basically the same thing, that is adding text. However, when it comes to options to customizing your text, the number of options in Photoshop is as high as your imagination. And in this lesson, I'm going to show you the fundamentals of how to use the text tool, how to customize the text, and some cool little tips and tricks. Not just little, big ones as well. We have about 7 examples, right from making movie posters to real estate brochures to super fun, cool text effects to even holiday celebration posts. We're going to do a lot of fun stuff. So without any further ado, let's get started. So let's start with the 4 ways to enter text in Photoshop. And the very first way is freeform. Let me show you. It is as simple as ABC. All you gotta do is to just click and it adds the text. Back in the magical world of Photoshop, and here is the text tool, my friends. All you gotta do is to select it, is click on it, or simply press T for the text tool. T is the shortcut. Now, the freeform way is, again, as I told you, very simple. You click, it adds the text. That's all there is to it. Let me zoom in. It's pretty small because the text size by default right here is pretty small. Now, there's a problem with this. If I click here, there's a little gap right there. Why is the gap right there? Well, because I had made some changes in the past and it has retained that. So if I go back and click on this button right there, the character and paragraph will open. If I go to paragraph right there, you will see that I had added about 21 points right there. So let me make it 0. So by default, it is 0. Let me make this margin 0 as well. We'll talk about all this later. Let me just reset everything. Now, if you want to reset everything, we're going to talk about that later as well. Just click on the 3 lines right over there, 4 lines actually. Even for the character, just click on the 4 lines. You can click on reset character. Everything will be reset from fonts, everything. All right. So let's say you want to create a movie poster of that. So I'm going to delete both the text. All right. So let's click on the T and single click on in here. Again, it's giving you the gap. Why is it giving you the gap? Because that text is selected. Every time you select that text, it will load up the previous settings. So we don't want it to load the previous settings. So let's delete everything once and for all. And to reset the text tool, reset everything. If something is off for you and if you want to do a fresh start, all you got to do is to select the tool and next to the tool, and it applies to all the tools. You will find an arrow. Click on that arrow and then you will find a gear icon. Click on that gear icon and then you can just choose reset tool. And if you want to reset all the tools in Photoshop, just click on reset all tools. So I'm going to reset the tool so it's all brand is new for you. I'm going to make sure that my character is reset. I'm also going to make sure that my paragraph is reset. This is essential for a fresh start. I could have just edited out this section from the video, but I wanted to show you that when you select the text tool, things might be different for you. And I wanted to show you how to reset that. Okay, so let me zoom out and then let's click to simply add text. And we can name this movie The Clown. So first of all, let's write clown, okay, and make it bigger. With the move tool selected, press Ctrl or Command T and you can make it bigger. Now keep in mind, text is vector. No matter how big you make it, how small you make it, and if you make it big again, it's not gonna pixelate unless you rasterize it. Right now, it is vector. So I'm gonna make it in such a way that the O comes around his neck. For that, we need to do a little bit of masking. But before that, let's choose a font. How do we choose a font? What did we learn before in the tools lesson? Every tool that you select, the options for that tool is at the top in the options bar. All right. So you can select the text in a couple of ways. So you can go to the text tool and then you can select the text. That's the boring way. That's the old man way of doing it. You're young. Even if you're 80 years old, you are young. I want you to be young. So this is how the pros do it. You double click on the T, boom, selected. Selected. As easy as that. Now you change the font of all of that by choosing the font right here. There's a lot of Adobe fonts as well. If you are a Creative Cloud member, you can always go to fonts.adobe.com and just activate different fonts and they're going to automatically show up right here. But for right now, I'm going to choose one of my favorites. This is not Adobe font. This is something I downloaded online. Gilroy Extra Bold. I really like this font. And I'm going to get the O next to the neck. And We want to make it bigger from the neck area. How do we do that? Well, if I make it bigger by pressing Ctrl or Command T, and if I make it bigger, it doesn't make it bigger from the neck area, it just makes it bigger from the center. By the way, we have talked about transform before in the previous lesson. All we have to do is to move the anchor point where you want to make it big from, and then you can hold the Alt key or the Option key and then make it bigger, and it'll make it bigger from that point. Interesting, isn't it? So I'm gonna make it about, what do you think? This big? Yep, we can always change things later. Now again, we want to change the color. So to change the color, you need to tell Photoshop what are the letters you want to change the color of. I want to change the color of the whole thing. So you double click on the T, it selects everything, and also selects the text tool for you automatically. So you don't, if you have the move tool selected, you don't have to select the text tool and then do all that stuff. None of that. Just double click on the T and you're good to go. Now once the text is selected, you single click up here at the top, right here. This is where you can pick the colors, and I'm going to choose white. For now, let's choose white. Okay, and of course we want to take it away from the neck area. So here's what we do. First of all, let's select the background layer and turn off the clown layer for a second, and then you can use the select subject layer to automatically select subject feature to automatically select the subject. So choose any of these tools like the quick selection, the object selection, or the magic wand. At the top you will see select subject. Now select subject is a very new feature only available in the later versions of Photoshop. Once you have a selection, you can come back to the clown, right, turn it on and click on the mask button. Don't do it. If you click on the mask button, it'll only keep the area under the selection. We want the opposite of that. We want the selected area to not be visible. So hold the Alt key or the Option key and click on the mask button. All right, this is okay. But we want to create the O in such a way that it's coming around the neck. So select the mask again. And if you want to make the thumbnails a little bigger, right click on it and choose medium thumbnails or large thumbnails, whatever that works with you. Let's choose the brush. Let's take a soft round brush, and then we're going to choose the mask, select the mask, and then paint this area with white very carefully. See, we brought that back. You can also bring other areas back as well. So this looks okay. Yeah, good. Now that looks like something. Now if you want to do something more on top of that to make it a little more exciting, you can also add a gradient to it. Now I don't want to disturb the mask right here of the clown. If I want, I can definitely click on the gradient tool right there and choose a gradient from foreground to transparent. So right now the foreground color is white. So if I change the foreground color to black by pressing X, which toggles the foreground and the background, it is black to transparent. I can do some effects like this. But right now I have disturbed the mask. The beautiful selection of the subject, I've disturbed that. So how do we get back to it? How do we add a gradient in such a way that the mask is not affected? By creating double mask. And how do we create double mask? Well, by putting it in a group. So if you have this layer selected and if you put it in a group by pressing Ctrl or Command G, what happens is that you can have one layer in a group and you can have a mask for the group. Isn't that exciting? So click on the mask button and now you can work with the gradient. You can also work with a simple black to white gradient. Okay, so now you can do a couple more trials with that. That is the advantage of it. And you don't have to worry about undoing everything again and again. So this is good. You know, this is pretty good. Let's zoom out. Let's take a look. This is exciting. This looks like something we can work with. All right, this is good. Now, of course, we want to add the clown. So we're going to select the text tool again. And we're going to type the. And we're going to make it a little bigger by pressing Ctrl or Command T after moving on to the move tool. So let's make it bigger and move it here. What do you think? Looks good? Make it a little more bigger. There you go. That looks good. Now for the as well, we're gonna have to probably add that gradient because it just looks too bright. We want to match it with that of the clown. So again, we can simply create a mask because here we don't have any necks to just remove. So one mask is enough. So with the gradient tool selected, we can just have some like that. Good. Yeah, that works. What do you think? Looks pretty darn good, doesn't it? I think we can do a little more removal because we don't want to focus on we want more focus on the clown. So about this much. We can also move the gradient. You know what? You can press Ctrl or Command, unlink the layer first. Unlink it by clicking on the link, select the mask, and then you can just move the gradient up and down. See what fits. You can just manually nudge that. Anyway, so this is the text. Looks amazing. Now let's do some effects. By the way, I already created this for you. This can look amazing. So we're going to do the exact same thing. So here I see one more text. Let's add one more text right here. So we're gonna add in theaters July 21. That is the freeform method. You just click and you just start typing. It doesn't follow anything, you just click and start typing. One thing to keep in mind though, when you do something like this, for instance, let me show that to you. Let me delete it. Let me show that to you. We should select the text tool. And if you want the text to be centered, for example, the one that I'm going to do is going to be centered. So I'm going to choose the center alignment and then do it. There's an advantage to it. So let's say I write in theaters July 21. All right. And I choose the font. I select all of the text and we choose the font Babus Neue Bold. And we're going to make it a little bigger. And you remember how do we center things in Photoshop? Press Ctrl or Command A at the top. You will see if the move tool is selected, you will see some aligning tools. So we can center it horizontally by clicking on this button. It is centered. Now, here's an advantage of aligning it in the center while you were creating the text. Remember, we aligned it in the center. Let's say you want to change the date. So you double click on the T, and if you want to do any modification to the text, let's say November 20, it is still centered. It is still in the center. You don't have to align it in the center again. However, if you hadn't done it, let's say if this was not center aligned, if this was aligned to the left, right? And then you had centered it, then you had pressed Ctrl or Command A, and then you had just horizontally centered it, pressed Ctrl or Command D to deselect it. Now, if you wanted to change the text, let's say you wanted to change it to November 21, 2020, whatever you write, it is not centered anymore. Again, you have to press Ctrl or Command A and then again center it. So that's an extra step. So if you are entering a text which you know that is going to be centered or which is going to be left aligned or right aligned, do it beforehand. Do it with the text, okay? So what is the right way to do it again? The right way is select the text first, center align it, right? It might look weird, but then you align it by pressing Ctrl or Command A and clicking on this button. The advantage here is now when you change the text to anything, what will happen? It'll always be centered. Okay, now let's put some gap between these, right? We'll talk about kerning, tracking and everything later, but right now just know, double click on the T, hold the Alt key or the Option key, the right arrow key, just to add a little gap. Exciting gap. Good. Let's zoom out. And we're going to make it a little more smaller. There you go, like that. Now, there's a problem that I see with this. Definitely we want some color grading on it. See, the pant is very bright. The pants he's wearing, very bright. And it's just kind of contrasting too much with that of the text. It's competing too much with the text. And the text is just not visible. So how do we make it? How do we make the text pop? How do we make the text come out? Well, by just color grading it in such a way that it dulls the pant a little bit and also adds a nice color grading effect. One of the things that we can do for color grading is clicking on the adjustment layer and choosing color lookup. And here I'm going to go ahead and choose Foggy Night. That works great. Now, as you can see, the text is coming, but we didn't want to completely apply it all over. We only want to apply it in the bottom. So select the mask and again, we're going to choose the gradient and then we're going to add a gradient like this at the bottom, just towards the bottom. That works like a magic. Maybe a little more. Okay, like this. Works great. Now let's add one more color lookup table. And this time we're going to use teal orange plus contrast. It really adds a nice contrast to it, right? There's still a lot of things that we can do. Now, if you look at the final result that I did, it is just ways ahead, right? We did the same thing right here. We applied the color lookup table. We applied color lookup tables right here, but we also applied some textures to go with it. Textures really make the hell lot of difference, right? So how do we add the texture? Well, I have some textures that we can add. Here I have two textures that we can add. So let's add the first one. So I'm just going to drag it and drop it right over there and just make it a little larger. You can also rotate it if you wish to. There you go. That works better. And make it a little larger. Now let's apply a blend mode to it. You can apply a ton of blend modes. We can try overlay. How does it look? We can try soft light. There's a lot of blend modes that we can try. So let's keep it at overlay. Right now you cannot see the texture much. But if I just add a curves adjustment layer, you will be able to notice. So if I just add a curves, you'll be able to notice that fine texture right there. Don't worry about that, because we're gonna add one more texture on top of that, and that is really gonna make a hell lot of difference. And that is the texture that I love, and this is this one. So here I'm gonna add the light texture, okay, on top of that, and we're gonna make it larger. Now using this texture, we are just brightening, right? We are just adding light to the subject. Now what is the blend mode that adds light? What is the blend mode that brightens? Screen. So we're gonna change the blend mode of texture to screen. Now, by the way, we're going to talk about all of this in later sessions. Right now, we are just talking about text. So if everything is going over your head, don't worry about it. You're just focusing on text right here. I'm just doing this to do a little fun, right? Now, here we have this, but again, we don't want it at the bottom. So we're going to create again another mask. And with the gradient, we're going to take it away from the bottom. Something like this. Okay, that works great. Also, we can come here. If you have a look, it just adds a little brown. This texture one adds a little brown to it. So how do we make it add one color? So we simply add a hue saturation adjustment layer just for texture one. So click on this button. That way it limits the hue saturation just for that, and click on colorize. That way it limits just to texture one. Here you can choose whatever color that works for you. So for me, I'm gonna go with this scary color. Wow, beautiful color. All right, there you go. We are getting somewhere. We're getting there slowly and gradually. And now if you have a look now, how does it look? Here's the before color grading, here's after color grading. I guess I'm gonna go a little lighter on the color grading. Let's go 40%. Wow, now that looks like something. Okay, good. Now, this thing that we have added, we don't want it on the subject. We want some of it behind the subject, some of it in front of the subject. So how do we remove it from the subject area? Well, by pressing Ctrl or Command G, putting it inside a group, not disturbing this mask. So this is, by the way, lighting texture. Name everything, otherwise it gets confusing. Click on the mask button. Do we have a mask selection of the subject? We don't at the moment. No problem at all. We have modified that. We can hold the Alt key or the Option key, click on the eye right there to just make that layer visible, just make it simple for you. And then we can, with the help of the quick selection or the object selection at the top, you will just click select subject. That's fine. Once you have the selection, you can hold the Alt key or the Option key, click on the eye. Everything is back now. We can get back to the lighting texture and fill this area with black. So with black as the foreground color, press Alt backspace or Option delete. Now that is gone from there. Now we are getting somewhere. Now it's just popping out, right? Also, we want to modify that in some way or the other, because have a look at the edges. They're just not looking good. So with the mask selected, you take the brush, you take a soft round brush. You can just decrease the flow a little bit to about 20%. And with white as the foreground color, slowly and gradually paint around the edge. Right? Just add that light. We are trying to make this as realistic as we can. Right? Exciting, realistic. You can take your time to do it. This is a text class, but we are still doing some fun stuff, because that's what this class is all about. It's not just about you learn how the tools work, but also you can learn how to do some fun stuff with it. This is some real world applications right here. Okay, adding some light. Also, we want not complete mask right here, so select that and you can just decrease the density. So I'm going to set the density to about 65%. And I want a little smoke at the bottom, so definitely we're going to just erase it from the bottom. Also, let's just increase the flow to about 50% and let's try to add some light. If we add a little light here, how does it look? Let's make sure that these lights are in the front, so that it looks like some lights are in the front, some are at the back. So that looks interesting as well. That looks realistic as well. Now we want the clown to be a little more different color. So if we choose the text at the top, I think, where's the clown text? Where did it go? Okay, so this is the All right, this is clown. Let's name it clown. Otherwise, things get lost. Okay, and let's move the. Let's select the T. Let's move the right there a little bit to the right. Just like this. I may have, moved it while editing. All right, good. Looks good. Now we want to apply color to both of the text. So it gets very difficult to just go to the T right here, go to the T of the. So let's combine both the text. So select the first one, hold the Control or Command, select the second one. Both of them are now selected. And then press Control or Command G. All right. Now we can just name it main text. Okay. And this is the text at the bottom. And we can group both of them as well as text layers. This is just for organization. Let's go to the main text. Just above the main text, we're going to create a solid color adjustment layer and let's apply green color to it. How do you feel about that? Hit OK and hold the Alt key or the Option key. Click on the line between these two layers so that it is limited to just that area. Now you can modify it to whatever you want. So you can make it a little brighter, a little less saturated. That's totally up to you. Okay. That works. You can also give it some blue color, some red color, but this color is just wonderful in my opinion. Okay. I feel the text should have been a little more dense. It's a little more light, but no problem. We're gonna take care of that later. But for right now, what if you want to add a little more glow to it? Well, that's easy too. So let's open the clown text. You double click on the right hand side of the layer and then you will find something called outer glow. Let's select that, check that and just add some glow. So here, all you have to keep in mind, keep the spread at 0. Opacity, let me show you what it does. So first let's increase it to 100. And if you increase the size, it'll slowly add that glow. See that? Now as you can see, it just looks too much. So we have to reduce the opacity. So opacity at about 35 works best. And there you go. This is a wonderful 35. All right. I typed something else. Okay. 35 looks great. And this is a wonderful effect. If you want to add the glow to you can do that as well. But right now I feel that the text is too light. So what we can do to get it is that, see the gradient that we did? That's the gradient that makes it very, very light. So we can select the mask of the gradient and then we can open up the properties and just decrease the density. Density is like opacity for the mask. So if I decrease it, too much decrease doesn't look good. Or maybe what we can do is keep it at 100, select the mask and let's work on the mask right now, because the advantage of creating masks is that it's non-destructive. You can always change it. You can always get back to it. You can always change it. See? Right? That looks a little better. Similarly with the, we're going to go back to that and probably still a little bit there. If you want to copy the glow to you can always do this. You can always hold the Alt key or the Option key. Just drag the effects to the layer as well. It just copies it right over there. Does the same thing. Simple. The clown, amazing one. You can also take the light away from the balloon. And by the way, this is something I took a little more time to do. This is a little more exciting one as well. If you have a look, there's a lot more grunge added to it. If you look at this texture, it's the same texture, but there's a ton more grunge. And the reason of grunge is I have added this texture over the light. So what you can do is that, let's try it over here as well. If I take the texture and what's above the texture over the light, let's see what it does. So above the light, above the lighting texture right here, see it creates the same effect. But right now it just looks too bright. Remember the curves we created somewhere? Yeah, this is the brightening curves. If we just take it away, it'll be similar to that. Let's take a look. Here's that one. Here's this one. So you can take a little more time and make it a little more exciting. And this is the one. And by the way, you'll be able to download it and see for yourself. So now that we have talked about entering text by simply clicking, that is freeform, whoops, I dropped the pen. Let's talk about text box. So here, let's say we're going to create a brochure, right, for a luxury kitchen. So how do we do that? Let's start with making space for the text, and we're going to make the space at the bottom. So first of all, let's make a copy of the background layer. Press Ctrl or Command J. We're going to create a blurred background, right? So if we take the rectangular marquee tool right over there, we can simply create a rectangle right here, just for a little space. And by the way, if you ever wondered how do we transform the selection, because right now if you make a selection and press Ctrl or Command T and change everything, you change that area, right? What if you wanted to transform the selection and not what it has selected? The solution is just right click on it and choose transform selection. Simple. Now I'm gonna just make the selection a little smaller from the top. That works. Once you have the selection in place, you can simply click on the mask button. And why did I create a mask? Well, because I was gonna blur the layer. Now, if you just go to filter, blur, and Gaussian blur, it's also gonna blur the mask, right? If you look, it's also gonna blur the mask. If you don't want to blur the mask, click on the link, and now go to filter, blur, and then Gaussian blur, right? By the way, I'm not keeping it non-destructive. If you wanted to keep it non-destructive so that you can change the values later, this is how to do it. Once you made the copy, right click on it and then choose convert to smart object. Now apply blur to it by going to, first of all, you can just let go of the selection right now. Go to filter, blur, and then Gaussian blur. And then you can add whatever blur you want. And after that, you make a selection. That way, it'll stay non-destructive. And once you make a selection, you click on the mask button. Anytime you want to change the blur to anything, all you have to do is to just double click on the Gaussian blur and just change it from there. So I'm going to keep it about this. What do you think? 45? Let's keep it at 45. But still, it doesn't make a nice space for some text because it still is dark. It still has some distractions. So how do we change that? Well, we simply again create one more curves adjustment layer. And then we click on this button because we want to limit it just to the bottom. And then we raise the shadows. See, now it's getting somewhere. Now it's getting exciting. By the way, you can do a lot of things with curves. It's one of my favorite tools. You can also create a curve like this. But this is good. We're gonna make it a little more brighter, something like this. And the advantage here is you can always go to the mask, press Ctrl or Command T for the mask, and then you can make it a little smaller like this. Or you can create the mask again. You get the point. You have the mask. Right now, I want to make an advertisement. Whoops, I'm sorry. I want to make an advertisement for, let's say, luxury kitchens. So we want to start typing right here. Select the topmost layer, press or select the T, press T or select T for the text tool. And this time for the headline, I'm just going to single click on it. All right. For the body, we're going to talk about how to use the text box. Also, we want the headline to be center aligned. So align it in the center. And then we can type something right there. But just as a beginning, let's choose a larger size so that we can see what is happening at least. And we're going to type in luxury kitchens. Whoops. There you go. And for the headline, we're going to choose the font Trajan Pro. And by the way, if we talk about text and if we talk about typography and graphic design, scores and scores of books are written on graphic design, scores and scores of book on typography, just that area of graphic design that is typography. You can read up on that. You can look that up. You can learn that online. That's a whole new subject. Right now we are just learning about Photoshop. Okay, so according to typography, when you combine a font that is sans serif with serif, it is a good combination. For example, in the heading you make with a font that is serif, and the subtitle you make with a font that is sans serif. And by the way, what is serif and sans serif? Serif means at the end of the font you have some embellishment. For example, Trajan Pro. So if you choose one of the fonts, Trajan Pro Regular, if I zoom in, see at the end of the font you will see these embellishments right there. Sans serif means without the serif. When you have a sans serif font like Gilroy that I like to use, light, you will notice that there are no embellishment at the edge. So that is the difference between serif and sans serif. I hope you understand how it works. All right, let's make it a little larger. Something like this would work. Now we wanted to center it, press Ctrl or Command A, and you can just click on this button to horizontally center it. Yeah, and then we can bring it a little bit at the bottom. Good. Now you want to write a little subtitle right there, right here, the interior company's name. So for that, you can just simply hold the Alt key or the Option key, click on the text and just drag it. That makes a copy. And then you can double click on the T and change whatever you want. So I'm going to just write in Dinda Interiors. If you have not got it by now, it's my last name. Okay, and here I want to combine it with a font that is sans serif. And you guessed that right. We're going to choose Gilroy Light. This looks good. And we're going to add some space. We'll talk about this later in detail, but just add some space for now. This looks nice. And let's make it a little smaller. Now, when you want to make it smaller, you have to choose the Move tool right there. And then press Ctrl or Command T. And let's make it this small. And take it just under Luxury Kitchens. Make sure it is centered as well. Good. So that looks really, really good. Look at how luxurious that text looks. Okay, I'm gonna move it a little bit to the top. And if you want to add some more embellishments, you can do that. You can choose the rectangle tool and just create a thin rectangle right here. Just like this. Make sure it's filled with white. So you can make sure that the fill is selected to white. And we don't want any stroke right here. And we don't want this embellishment right here to strike through the subtitle, so we can just subtext, whatever you want to call it. We can choose the rectangular marquee tool and then make a selection of this area. Also, if you want to make sure that it is centered, you can just move it around and snap it at the center. And then you can click on the mask button by holding the Alt key or the Option key, because we want to create a negative mask. We want to take it away from that area. See, it looks nice. You can also choose the mask right here, unlink the mask, press Ctrl or Command T, and then probably adjust it accordingly, according to your choice. And then it looks nice. You can adjust it, make sure it is well aligned. Also, I will make it a little more thinner than the text actually, or maybe as similar to the thickness of the text. I'm sorry about the birds in the background. I just have to shoo them off sometimes. But we are shooting right now. Let's make it a little thinner. The crow is now gone, thankfully. So to add text in a text box, you have to click on the text tool and then just click and drag to create a box right there. And by default, it will be added with lorem ipsum text. That gives you an idea how the text is going to look. So you can select it all by just pressing Ctrl or Command A or double clicking on the T, and then you can choose a font of your choice. It gives you a live preview. And by the way, if you don't want to see the selected once you select it, it just highlights it. If you don't want to see the highlight, you can always press Ctrl or Command H for hide. It temporarily hides it. It's still selected, but it hides it. Now we can just choose the font of our choice. I'm gonna choose Minion Variable Concept Regular. Also, there's tons of space, right? So to reduce the space, you can hold the Alt key, the Option key, left arrow key to reduce the space. Again, we'll talk about this in detail later. Also, you can zero the space or make it the way it was by just choosing the value of the character right here, of the tracking value to 0. And then also, if you have a look, the text is center align. So I'll align it to the left. And there you go. It looks wonderful. So if you want to just paste sample text, by the way, and if your text box doesn't already have it, you can always go to type and then choose paste lorem ipsum. It just pastes the lorem ipsum random text to give you an idea how it's going to look. Okay. So I can make the text box larger. Probably let's delete text from right here. Okay. Put a full stop right there. Now there are a couple ways in which you can modify it. Let's say you want the right hand side right here to touch the edge as well. So you can double click on the T and then you can open up the paragraph settings. Click on this button right there, click on paragraph, and then you can just make sure you can justify it. So justify left will make sure every line where it is filled will try to touch the right end as well and the left hand both. And the last line right there will be aligned to the left. Similarly, there is the other one. The last line will be aligned to the right, and this one is the last line will be centered. Okay, and there is this one, which is every line will be justified to both the edges. This looks ugly. So this is okay. The justify and align to left. By the way, a lot of graphic design experts suggest you that you left align it and not justify it but that's absolutely up to you, what you want to do, what looks pleasing to you. Sometimes if there's a lot of text and if you justify it all, it might look too much robotic, but every person has their own preferences. I'm going to make the text a little smaller to about 64. Yeah, that looks good. Okay, so that's how you add it. Now on top of that, you can always press Ctrl or Command T and then adjust it from there as well. There you have it. Okay, and there you go. Interesting text. Now sometimes what I do is to make the text look a little more luxurious, is just decrease the opacity just by a little bit. You can keep it at about 80%. Look, opacity 100 looks very, very, basic, like somebody just added it. If you just decrease the opacity by 80, look at just a little difference, but makes it very, very elegant. All right, let's move on to the next one. And this time we're going to talk about how to add text inside a shape. We have talked about it in a previous lesson, but we're going to take it a little step further and also create some cool effects with it. So let's get to it. So in a previous lesson where we talked about the pen tool, we learned how we can add text in a shape, where we had probably a guy on a motorcycle and we added some text on the side of it, remember? So we can use that technique to add text to any shape, no matter how complex that is. If it's a shape of an animal, no matter how complex that is, you can create your own shape that we learned before so that you can go back and watch. If you already have a shape, if you already import a shape in Photoshop, make sure it's a vector shape. You can just add some text to it. So if we go to the custom shape tool, we can do it with simple shapes already. So let's go to the custom shape tool and we're going to choose a nice shape right here. Let's choose the heart. All right. And now let's create a heart right here. All right. If you want to maintain the proportions with the shape, hold the shift key and we're going to place it right in the center. All right. Now it does have a color. So how do we take away the color? So simply make sure you click on the fill and click on this cross. So that way it won't have a color. Right. Now select the text tool, and then if you click inside it, it's going to show you the text tool icon with a circle around it, which means the text will be inside the shape. If you click on the path, the text will be along the path. We'll talk about it in the next example, but for right now, let's add text inside a shape. So just click anywhere inside. It just automatically pastes the lorem ipsum. We're going to just decrease the size to about 10 points. Let's see how it looks. 12 points. Yeah, that looks good. So how beautifully we have added some text to it. Now we're going to add some different color to it. So select it all and let's choose a dark brownish color right here. That looks good. Now I feel that there's a lot of space between the text. We can easily fix that. That's not an issue. Let's go to the character settings. Make sure it's 0. I think the space is not due to the words or the size or anything. It's just due to the justification and the way the word is. So we can justify to the left, but then again the shapes won't take a good shape. So make sure we choose this. And then you select it all and then you paste it a couple times. You can also select it all and then paste it a couple times. Again, the text is very small. So let's make it a little larger. Let's go with 14. How do you feel about that? Let's go with 16. And that is a little more legible and it looks like it is in a good shape. Wow, it looks beautiful. I'm going to make it a little more bolder. By the way, any font that you see with variable concept, that's a new thing in Photoshop, where you just don't have a bold, semi-bold. You have all of this, but you can also just control the weight of the font with a slider. Only happens with variable fonts. So if you, with that text layer selected, if you open up the properties, if this is a variable font, you can control the weight from here with a slider. Isn't that exciting? The more you take it towards the right, the more thicker it becomes. Okay, so I'm going to make it a little thin. Okay, and there you go. That looks good. And wow, that looks good. You can also choose the default ones from right here. See, once you choose it, it's going to tell you medium 490. It's medium, but also modified it a little bit. You can also choose the default ones like bold and then customize it. You can just make the bold a little more thinner, a little less bold. That's absolutely up to you, and work to see which one looks the best. If that's okay. A little bit of bold looks good. Now I feel there's a little bit of space created here. If you want to fix that, you can try turning on hyphenation. So once the text is selected at the top, just click here right there in the paragraph settings. You can just check hyphenate. That will try to fill that. If it will try to break the words by hyphenation. So that is helpful a little bit, and it helps. There you go. It just creates a wonderful heart. Now, if you want the heart to just look like if you want the text to look like if it was just typed on the paper, there are a couple ways you can do it. One of the easiest ways is double click on the right side of the text and then just take it away from the bright areas by taking the slider of the underlying layer from right to left, just like this. Okay. It's harsh again, so hold the Alt key or the Option key, click on the slider, break it apart. There you go. Now it's getting somewhere. All right, there you go. That looks good. It looks so darn realistic. Now, do you want to make it even more realistic? If you zoom in, yes, it does look very real. If you want to make it even more realistic, here's what you can do. Remember, we talked about brushes in a previous lesson. We talked about a lot of interesting brushes, and even we downloaded some brushes from the internet, some watercolor brushes. We can use it right here just to take away some areas to give it an interesting grunge. So we can create a mask by clicking on the mask button. You can take a brush. Let's start with a soft round brush. With a flow at about 20%, you can just paint with black in certain areas. Just to make it a little more realistic. Maybe you can just take it away from the middle a little bit, where it was folded. See? Alright, besides that, you can do this. Remember, we downloaded some brushes, some watercolor brushes, right? We already have some special effects brushes, but we have some cool watercolor brushes. And by the way, if you cannot see the tips of the brush, you can just make sure the brush tip is checked. And you can turn off brush stroke, because tips are important right here for the because we only dabbed once with brushes like this. So we can choose any one of these. Make sure the mask is selected. You make it a little bigger. This time flow, let's set it to about 50%. Then you can just paint just one splash with black, just to make it, take it away from certain areas. Then you can select one more, any other brush. Interesting brush. Let's go with this one. And then you can just make it a little larger and single click here just to take it away, right? Control how much you want to take it away. There you go. So those are the few things you can do. You can even give a large dab right here. Make sure the mask is selected. Make the brush very large, and then you can just dab once, just to give it a little more realistic feel right there. Okay, there you go. Now it looks very realistic. Just take a look at this. Let me zoom it in for you. Just take a look how nice it looks. And to top it off, you can still change the size of the text. You can double click on the T. You can, right here, and then you can still change the size. You can make it a little larger so that the text is a little more visible. So make it 24. See, it's a little more visible. It's still in the shape of a heart, and it looks very realistic. I took a little more time with the masking and the text, and this is my final result. Let's take a look at this. So even if you have a look at the mask, see how complicated that is? Now look at this. It just is a matter of how much time you're going to take, how much attention you're paying to each area. I can even take a very small brush and take it away from the fine highlights. The possibilities are always limitless. So let's move on to the next example, where we talk about adding text along a path, not inside a shape, but along a path. Let's move into it. So let's say you're creating a holiday post, and along this Christmas ball, you want to type in Merry Christmas. How do you do that? Well, first of all, let's create a shape. So I'm going to choose the ellipse tool. And if you want to create a circle from the center, you can just click and drag, and then you hold Alt. That way it'll be created from the center. And if you want to maintain proportions, you hold the Shift key. That way it maintains the proportions. Now, it might not be perfect, but it gives you an idea to just do it along the center. All right, there you go. Now you can fill it, you can do whatever you want, but We don't want to fill it, we just want to add a text around it. So for now, I'm just going to decrease the opacity to see if this is aligned properly, and then with the arrow keys, and then make sure that it is just in the center and the gaps along the edges are similar. Good. We can make it even more smaller, I guess. Alright, that looks to be about right. Now, you can just bring back the opacity because it doesn't really matter right now. And now here's what you can do. First of all, let's not fill it. So select the shape tool right there. Any shape tool will do. At the top, just cross. Now, if you select the text tool and if you click inside it, it will fill it. However, if you click on the path, it will show you the text tool with a different symbol, with a curved symbol. When it shows you that symbol, click. That way, the text will be added along the path. Of course, it's very, very small. So we're going to make it a little larger. So we're going to make it even more larger. We're going to choose the font Babus. Babus Neue Bold. And we're going to type in Mary. Now, for once, I'm aligning this text to the left. And for a reason. Because I wanted to show you how this works. Let's take a look at this. So this is the point that you see right there. This is the point where the text starts, this point. And there is one more point that you cannot see at the bottom. I'll show it to you. If I move the point, and by the way, if you want to move this point, you can hold the control key and then you can move the point right here. There you go. Okay. This is the point where the text starts. And if I move it right there, you'll be able to notice. Okay. Good. There you go. You see the X right there? This is where the text starts. And you see the 0 right there? Like that? This is where the text ends. So if I hold the control key and bring the 0 right here, see, the text will begin to end right there. You won't be able to see that. Okay. So this is X or plus, or however you want to call it. This is where the text starts, and O is where the text ends. Now, sometimes when you center align it, they might be in the same place or the opposite place, but just know that this is where the text starts. Okay. If you want to center align it, things get a little different. Now, when you zoom in, now if you have a look, you have them at equidistant spaces, 0 and this one as well. And you can change the center with this one. You can change how much the text space is going to be by these two. So around the edge. So this changes, but you'll get the idea of how this works. Okay. And you can change what the center is by this point right there. Okay. Now you might be asking, and you already might have figured it out. If you want to add text outside of the path, this is how to do it. But if you want to change it to inside, you can always hold the controller command and click it and drag it inside. That's all there is. Click it and drag it outside, click it and drag it inside. Wherever you want to keep it, you can do it. So I'm going to keep it right there. Merry Christmas right here. And I'm going to add a lot of space here. And let's make it a little larger. So 48 is not fine. About this much, about 110 right now. And you can't see Christmas because we just changed how much space it can take. Okay. All right. So now I'm going to move the center a little bit to the left. Okay. That looks like a good one. We can also make it a little more larger at about 115. Okay. How about if we make it 120? Yes, that looks good. Now we want to move it a little bit towards the right and hold the controller command, and there we go. That looks good. Now we want to take it away from this protrusion right there. So click on the mask button and then just take the brush. You can also do it with a simple selection. I'm going to take a simple brush, make sure that the foreground color is black, and then paint there with a soft round brush. Let's move it to the top, and this time we also want to see the brush strokes back. So click on the gear right there and choose brush stroke, and we're going to choose a soft round brush. Let's make it a little smaller, and then just paint right here. Just take it away from this area. Similarly, this area as well. I painted a little extra so that we can fix it back. So change the color back to white. Make sure the flow is at 100. And now just paint back. Let's rotate it a little bit. And we talked about rotation before. Remember, you hold the R and then you can rotate the canvas. Just makes painting easy. We are not rotating the thing. By the way, the opacity is 96. Make sure it's 100. That's why it was looking weird. All right, that looks okay. Now, let's zoom out. Now we have to just rotate it back, hold the R key, R, and then click on reset view, and then when you release the R key, it will take you back to the previous tool. If it doesn't, you can select that tool again. Now I feel like I should move, double click on the T, I feel like I should move the text a little bit towards the left. So how do we do that? We simply click on that middle button right there. It's so hard to find out, especially in this, it's so hard to see. It is probably right there. Yes, it's right there. Okay, there you go. Yeah. Zoom out and see if it looks good. Yeah, it looks okay. We can add a little more space to move it a little towards the right. Okay, that works. Now we can add some cool effects to it. You can add whatever texture you want. I have a golden texture right here. So if I go to my Finder or Explorer, I can just simply click it and drag it right in over here and make it a little smaller. Like this. Place it over the text and then just simply apply it and limit it just to the text by holding the Alt key or the Option key and clicking on the line between these two layers. That way it is limited just to the text, and that's why you can create a super cool effect. And by the way, if you want to add some mask elements here as well, so you can select the mask and then take the brush, and then you can try dabbing a little bit, make it a little lighter over here by painting black in there just to add a little more glow to at the bottom. All right, there you go. That's how to create a super cool Merry Christmas effect and add text along the path. Again, those points are very small. Right now my resolution is 4K on the monitor, and therefore those points get so small it's hard to find, especially with a difficult and complex background like this. It actually isn't very hard, but sometimes when you have a complicated background and you're working with a 4K monitor, things get a little too small and hard to find. Just keep in mind, one is from where you start the text, one is from where you end the text, and if you have center aligned, there will be one more point that you can move in the center. And that's all there is to it. Now it is time for us to talk about some essential character settings like leading, tracking, kerning, all of those important stuff. So let's say we want to create a hotel advertisement. So we have this image and we want to make it a little longer. Press C for the crop tool. Always when you're working with the crop tool, make sure that delete cropped pixels is unchecked. If the crop handles are not showing, just simply click, the crop handles will show up, and then make it a little longer, just like this. Now let's fill the background with black. So click on the adjustment layer icon and then choose solid color, and we're gonna choose black, hit OK. Bring it under the image. Now also we want the image to blend in pretty well. Again, we're going to use a gradient. We're using a lot of gradient in this tutorial. So click on the mask right over there and let's choose the gradient from black to white. That's fine. And we're going to create a gradient like this. Okay, this creates a wonderful gradient. Also, there's a lot of colors that might distract us. So let's say this is a page inside a magazine, or this is a page inside the main hotel page. So whatever it is, I want to make it black and white. Too many colors here. So click on the adjustment layer icon and then choose black and white. It just makes it a little more, serene, luxurious. So select the mask. If you want to adjust it later, you can do that as well. Whoops. Right now, if I do anything to the mask, the image moves as well. So click on this link so that it's unlinked. Now you can move the mask and accordingly do whatever you wish. I'm gonna keep it at about this because we want to add some text to it. So for the heading, we're gonna choose a font that I recently downloaded and I've been loving that font, and that is Aguero Regular. Okay, let's take the font at the top and choose the color to be white. Double click on the T and change the color from black to white. Okay. Now we want to capitalize everything. First of all, let's write the name of the hotel. Let's say things were not capitalized. So I'm gonna name it in the font's name. Let's name the hotel Aguero. Okay, I did that on purpose. You could have just typed everything in capital. That looks better. However, let's say things were not in capital. Some were small, some were, capitalized, some were lower cases, some were upper cases. And you want to make, and you had a lot of text, and you want to make all the text to be uppercase. So you can select it all. First of all, you can click on this button to show up the character and paragraph settings. In the character settings, you can choose this button. This button is for all caps. If you click on that button, everything will be capital. No matter if you type it on lowercase or uppercase, everything will be caps. All right. So I did that on purpose so that you can learn what this does. Now that was one thing. Okay, let's place it in the center. Control or Command A. Let's place it in the center. Also, there's one more way of doing that. So once the text layer is selected, you can click on the three dots right there. You can choose Align to Canvas. Then you don't have to make a selection. Then even if you move it here and there, wherever it is, these buttons would work. It'll center it or align it according to the canvas. Okay, if you have canvas selected. Now selection, I usually keep it aligned to selection because sometimes I want to center it between something. So let's say you want to center it between this wall of the hotel. So you can make a selection of that wall, whatever wall you want. And we want this text in the center of that. So once you have that selection, you can just select the move tool and then you can center it according to that. So I usually keep it selection. It's up to you. Whatever you use the most, you can just set it to that. All right. And this is how it was. Now let's create a subtext. So we're gonna just make one here and we're gonna name this again. We love luxury, don't we? So let's name this Luxury Hotel Suites. Okay. And again, we're gonna choose Babus Neue Bold or Book. Book is a little lighter. And now let's make it smaller. Now we will learn about tracking. Let's put it right here. Let's make it even smaller. Now here's the tip that I give everybody about typography. If you want to make anything look luxurious, just add a ton of tracking. That's it. What is tracking basically? It is the space between the letters. Overall space between all the letters. There's a difference between kerning and tracking. We'll get back to that. Just keep in mind, tracking is the space between all the letters. So right now, if you make a selection of it all, double click on the T, and you can do this by holding the Alt key or the Option key and the right arrow key to add space. Or if you go to the options, click on in here, you can increase the tracking from right here as well. Even if you hover over it, it'll tell you what it does. Set the tracking for the selected characters. So we can set it at a very high number. So let's set it at 400. Oops, sorry about that. 400 right here. It looks very, very luxurious. Let's take a look. So luxurious. We can make it a little smaller than that. Also, when you're doing a little bit of typography, sometimes aligning looks good, sometimes it doesn't. That's totally up to you. Press Ctrl or Command R to show up the ruler. And then you can choose the Aguero layer. And then you can just, draw a guide, bring a guide from right here. And you can use this guide to adjust this, the Luxury Hotel Suites. So we're gonna, whoops, I'm sorry about that. And we can make it smaller accordingly. Just make sure everything is aligned. Okay, now if you want to hide the guides, hold the Control or Command and press colon, right? It'll hide the guides. Now they are very well aligned. Sometimes it just makes sense to make the heading a little larger, make it a little less aligned. That looks good too. That's totally up to you. This looks good in this example. So that's all tracking. If you want to make anything a a little more luxurious. Just add space between them, and you know how to do that. You just have to select that text, double click on the T, hold the Alt key or the Option key and the right arrow to add the space. If you want to reduce the space, the left arrow. Now, there's this thing called kerning. Now, what is kerning and how it is different from tracking? Well, kerning also controls the space between two letters. Now, keep in mind, it is just a terminology thing right here. Kerning means that you're controlling the space between just two letters. And it can be different for different areas. Tracking is the overall thing. It's the overall space between all the letters that you have selected. So in this case, let's say I'm not adding a complete space between the letters in Aguero. I'm just, let's say, I think that the E and the R right here are very, very close. I want to add some space between them. So you take the highlighter, the cursor right over there, and you hold the Alt key or the Option key. And then when you press the right arrow key, it adds a little more space over there. If you want to reduce the space, you can do that as well. That is kerning. And that is not something you do for everything. That is just for the heading. That is just for the book cover title, something like that. If you want to, if you start keep doing it for every text in your copy, you'll just go crazy. We just have to do for certain important things only. So I feel, for example, we want a little more space between A and G. Just add a little space over there, and let's zoom out and see how it looks, right? I think the original was fine, but you understand how this works. Anytime you feel like there's a little more space needed, sometimes with certain fonts, you might need certain space. So let's say we were typing something else. I'm going to reset the character right there, and you can just click on this 4 grid right there and click on reset character. And we were choosing a different font. Like we were working with a font like Railway, and we're gonna go with Railway Regular. And if you type something, I'm just typing some random stuff, and anytime you feel like there is very less space between the letters, you can use this technique. For example, if you make it larger, you will find that it just looks like the S and T are very close together. If you feel like it, sometimes if you feel like it, you can add more space by holding the Alt key or the Option key and click the right arrow right there. Okay. Also, if you feel like there's Q and A are very close, just take the pointer right there, hold the Alt key or the Option key, the right arrow to add space. If you feel like this has too much space there between N and E, you can take the cursor, the pointer right there, hold the Alt key or the Option key, and the left arrow key to reduce that. That is called kerning. So now you understand the difference between kerning and tracking. So kerning is not something you do everywhere. It is just in the essential text, like the heading, right? Like the important text. We don't have to do it everywhere. Now let's understand what is leading. Okay, it is spelled L-E-A-D-I-N-G, but it is pronounced as leading, not leading. A lot of people make mistakes and then they call it leading. It's not that. It's leading, and there's a reason for it. We'll get back to it soon. Right now, let's say you want to add some body copy right here, and we dragged in a text box, and let me reset the character. Click on the 4 dots and let me reset the character. Also, let me reset the paragraph. So select the paragraph tab and let me reset the paragraph. And let's change the color to white. Okay, and let's choose the font to Minion Regular, Minion Variable Concept Regular. And this looks okay. Maybe we can make it a little larger. 14 pixels is fine. Now let's just paste some more text. So after this, probably we'll go to type, paste lorem ipsum. It gives you an idea of how it's going to look like. In the next paragraph, you're going to add a little more. So if I just simply hit enter, it'll take you to the next paragraph, but there's no space. We'll tell you how to add space later. Right, so we're going to go to type, paste lorem ipsum, and we're going to type some random things here just to not let the things end at the same area. Okay. Now again, you can just probably copy a little bit here, hit enter and go to the next paragraph and paste it. So this is our body copy. Now it doesn't look very good. There's no space between the paragraphs. Yes, you can hit enter twice and add a little space, but that's not the actual way of doing it. Double click on the T to select it all. If you go to the paragraph settings right over there, you can add the space after the paragraph, before the paragraph. So if you hover over it, it's going to tell you what it does. Add space before paragraph. This is add space after paragraph. So you can change these values to add the space before and after paragraph. So that's the correct way of doing that. So let's add 10 points of space. Does that look good? No. 20. Does that look good? So you can choose how much space you want to add. Now there's one more thing when you're changing values in any slider in Photoshop, is that if you just change it, if you just click and drag it, it'll make it more or less. If you take it to the right, it's going to make it more. If you take it to the left, it's going to make it less. But it's going a little faster. If you want to make it go a little more faster, you can hold the Shift key. It goes really, really very fast. If you hold the Alt key though, it'll go slow. So when you hold the Alt key or the Option key and then you do it, that's for fine tuning. Okay. When you do it regularly, that's the regular speed. And if you want to just take it through all the values and see it very fast, hold the Shift. So we can choose this much space. You can also choose how much space to add after the paragraph by using these values right over there as well. It's basically the same thing, just kind of opposite. So I'm going to go back to how it was. This is looking a little nicer. Now, still, there's something we can do to it. Of course, you can try justifying it and maybe it might look good to you or not. That's absolutely up to you. I usually keep it left aligned. I don't like to hyphenate, but if you're into that, you can click there. So that way it'll break the words and just fill it a little more properly. But I don't want to break the words. I don't keep hyphenated. So this is good, but still there is something that we can do to it. Something that we can do that'll make it a little more readable. And that is leading. Adding a little leading to it. What is leading? Leading is just simply adding space between the lines. That's all there is, all the lines. So select all the text. So click anywhere, press Ctrl or Command A to select it all. Hold the Alt key or the Option key, and this time instead of the right or left arrow, which controls the tracking, increases space, decreases space, you can press the up or down arrow. So if you press, once you press the down arrow, it goes crazy, but you have to press it a couple times. Up or down arrow to add space between the lines. See that? If you want to, disable the highlighting for a while, I already told you what to do. Press Ctrl or Command H. It'll just temporarily disable the highlighting. And there you go. It has added a little space. Of course, there's some less text, but you get the point. This is much more readable and luxurious. You see, luxurious things have a lot of space. Now you might be wondering, why is it called leading and not leading? And there's a reason for it. You see, back in the days when we had to manually get in the type, right? Actual, real lead bars, lead as in the metal, lead bars were put between the lines to add the space. That's why it is still called leading. Okay, so that is leading. We learned what is tracking. We learned what is kerning. And there are other settings that you can play with. So if you just open up the character properties right there, if you want to superscript it, subscript it, it's the same as majority text-based applications like Word, right? There are also some other settings. For example, if you select this text right there, this is just for stretching the text. It just stretches it. Different settings that you can try and see what they do. I told you what the major ones were, all right? Now, also when it comes to paragraphs, you can come to the paragraph setting right over there. Again, left aligned, middle aligned, right aligned, justified with left, justified with middle, justified with right. And also these are the margins. Not very useful because you can move the text box here and there as well. But if you want to add a little more margin on the left hand side, so let's say I want to add 10 pixels, adds a little 10 pixels on the left. All right, so if you want to go 20 pixels, it's a little 20. Right, this is the right margin. If you want to add 30 pixels on the right, adds 30 pixel margin on the right. If you want to have a little more space when the article starts, you can have that as well. When the paragraph starts, so it happens with all of the paragraphs. So these are some basic settings. You can play with the values to see what they do. But the majority ones, we already discussed. Now there are going to be times when you have a font that you like, but there's no bold version of it or there's no italic version of it, and you want that. So in that case, there's a feature in Photoshop where it will try to simulate that bold or italic effect. For instance, let's say you want to create a text effect right there, and let's create a super cool text effect, and let's type in speed. And the font that I'm going to use, I don't want any space between the letters, so I'm going to set it to 0, set the tracking to 0. And the font that we're going to use is Babus, that's font is good, and regular. Okay, it doesn't have any italic version here. Let's make it bigger by pressing Ctrl or Command T. Let's make it this big. This big looks okay. Now we want to make it italic. First of all, let's make it even bigger. We want it to be the background for the subject. Okay, there we go. Something like this looks okay. Now we will move it a little bit towards the center, move it a little down. Okay, good. Now, how do we get the italic version of this? First of all, let's select the text. Then if you go to the settings by clicking on this button right there, character settings. If you click on the 4 lines right over there, there's this thing called faux bold and faux italic. That means false italic and false bold, fake italic and fake bold. Photoshop will try to simulate that. So if you want a false italic, click on that. If there's no bolder version of this and you want it even more bold, click on faux bold. All right. I don't want faux bold, but if you want it, you can, there's a feature there. So if any font you want a bolder version or an italic version, this will help you mimic that. So this looks nice. Let's take a look. And now let's create a cool effect for this. So I want the D to be extended. First of all, let's move the text a little bit to the left. And to have a D extended, we can create a shape right over here. So let's create a rectangle. And we'll start right there at the very top. And by the way, it'll make it very easy if you had guides. So press Ctrl or Command R for the ruler to show up. And then let's create a guide at the top, just right there. And then at the one at the bottom. It's already there. If it's not there, let me drag it. Before, when I was creating it, I already drew the guides. Whoops, I didn't want that. Okay, so once you have the guides, you can simply choose the rectangle tool right there and then start making a rectangle. Like this. Press Ctrl or Command T and adjust it accordingly. Make sure it's up to the guides. It's okay. Make sure it is matching right over here. It's a little above. Maybe I'll take it 1 pixel below. Let's zoom in. Probably let's take it 1 pixel below like this. Hit enter or return. And it doesn't make much of a difference. Press Ctrl or Command : to hide the guides and change the color to white. Double click on the thumbnail and change it to white. Now it matches, but we want the whole of the D. So how do we get that? Well, you create a mask. So click on the mask button right there. You take the brush and black as the foreground color. You can choose the soft round or the hard round brush. Doesn't really matter right here. And then you select the mask and then you paint out the D area. We painted a little extra, so let's paint it back with white. Super cool. Now we want it to fade away a little bit, so we want one more mask here. So, but that mask will be for both the text and the extension. So let's make a group of the text and the extension. So select the text, hold the Ctrl or Command, select the extension. Both of them are now selected. Press Ctrl or Command G. Now click on the mask button. Now we'll again use a gradient. We are doing a lot of gradients in this class. Oh, just the opposite of what I wanted. Okay, there you go. Nice extension. Now we want the text behind the subject. So let's turn it off for a moment. Select the background layer. And now let's use select subject again. With any of these tools selected, the object selection, the quick selection at the top, just click on select subject. And it does a pretty good job of making a good selection of the subject. Once it does, then all you gotta do is to turn it on and probably let's create one more group of the group so that you can have one more mask. And then we want to create a negative mask. So hold the Alt key or the Option key, click on the mask button. There you go. Wonderful. Now on this mask, you can control the gradient. So here, probably if you want to make it, if you want to adjust it a little bit, there you go. Super cool text effect right there. Italic version. Press Ctrl or Command R to hide the rulers. There you go. Now, coming to the last example of this session, this lesson, and that is vertical typing. Sometimes it's fun to type in vertical, and there's a specific tool for that. Let's take a look at this example. So let's say you want to give this chalkboard some love. This is how you do it if you want to type it vertically. So let's select the vertical type tool. There are two, horizontal type tool and the vertical type tool. Horizontal type tool is selected by default because that's what we do all the time. And then there's vertical. It has an arrow that clearly tells you that it's vertical. And by the way, there are these tools as well. Vertical mask type tool, type mask tool, and the horizontal type mask tool. And if you type with that, it's very simple. If you type anything with that, and then you go back to the move tool, it just creates a selection of whatever you typed. Not very useful. You can always type that and convert that into a selection and change that later. I don't ever use that, but anyway, let's go to the vertical type tool. Just click and you can use that to type in vertically. And by the way, let's reset everything. You can reset the character. You can reset the paragraph. Remember, we had selected faux bold and faux italic. If you had selected any one of those, the next time you type it, just make sure you uncheck them, because every time you do it, they will be checked automatically. And we're going to type in love. Let's make the size a little larger, 72. Have them selected first, then increase the size. This time we're going to choose a very good font that goes with chalk, that is called Byte Chalk, that I downloaded regularly. Byte Chalk regular. There's normal one as well. So regular one is super cool, right? Also, chalks would be usually white, right? So let's choose white as the color. Looks pretty good. And here's the great part. You can select all the text, hold the Alt key or the Option key, and decrease the space between the text. And another great part is we can use kerning right here. This time, if you take the cursor moves with the up and down arrow keys instead of the right and left. And let's say you see that there's a little space between V and E. You can hold the Alt key or the Option key and just the right arrow key to increase the space between them. Just that. See the real-time application of kerning, real-world application, I must say. Press Ctrl or Command T. Let's rotate it just a little bit to align it well with that of the board. Make it a little larger according to your preference, and we're gonna bring it right there. And by the way, you can just type some words with L, then O, then V, and then E. You might have seen that in a lot of places. So good. You can write a positive quote right there, but that's something for you to think. Now, we want to make it realistic. It still looks realistic, but we can use BlendIf to just make it more realistic. So double click on the right hand side of the layer and take it away from the dark areas by taking the slider of the underlying layer from left to right. Hold the Alt key or the Option key, click on it to break it apart. Yeah, that looks a little good. Yeah, you can also try it with the right hand side. See what that does, and there you go. Looks pretty darn good. So that's all about how to use the text tool, how to customize it, and how to do some super cool effects with it. Just remember to be creative and keep on experimenting. See you in the next lesson.